Hello there, good morning and welcome to my little arty corner of YouTube. It's lovely to see you again if you're a returning visitor, and it's lovely to welcome you here if you're a new subscriber or a new visitor. I hope you like what you see and enjoy this. If you do, please consider giving a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I have some lovely comments from people, so feel free to leave a lovely comment with other people. You can leave any comments you like, but the lovely ones get responses, shall we say. It's lovely to have you here. My name's Angela. I'm Angela Porter, and I'm an artist, illustrator. I'm particularly known for my work on colouring books, and including those in the Colour Me Calm series with Lacey Mucklow, and various ones for Dover's Creative Haven, like Entangled, Eerily Entangled. My last one is Whimsical Cats, I think it is. Although I've just finished Adorable Dogs and I'm starting to work on the next one after that, which I can't tell you about yet, but I will when it's been launched, when the official launch by the company's been done. So what we're going to do today, I've got a page full of circular motifs, and it's still in this little pad here, my Canson Imagine A5 pad. And this morning I woke up a bit earlier than I wanted to, and I needed to do something until I was ready to go back to sleep. So what do? Oh, I draw. I sit in bed and I draw for a bit. And I've got all of these pages that look like this for colouring practice and so on. And I thought, well, I don't actually want to colour, and I'm not in the mood for getting my bedding mucky with colouring materials and so on. So let's see what I can do to jazz these up a bit, to add pattern and interest just with a pen. So I got out a fine liner. I've got a Micro 05 here, and I'm going to add some patterns. I'm going to show you how you can do this. This can be done before you add colour or afterwards, depending on how you prefer to colour things. And using patterns and textures can be a way of adding shadow and highlight first as well. See what I mean? So bear in mind what this looks like now. And I promise you, I'm not going to be doing anything overly complicated here. I really am not. But it ends up looking overly complicated, because like with anything, it's breaking things down into steps and increasing the complexity one step at a time. It doesn't appear on the page just as a complex drawing in one go. This started off as just a page full of circles. In fact, I've noticed there's one here that doesn't have anything in it. I may come back to that later. We'll see. I'm going to start with this one. And for this one, I've got almost like two bands here. I'm going to ignore the top one and the bottom one, but these two I'm going to start just by placing a circle roughly in the centre, and I'm just going to pop circles in. When I get to the edge, if there's not enough space to add a complete circle, I'm just adding part of one. So I'm not trying to make these fit the space I have, as it were, stretching them or whatever. I'm just going as they fall. And if they're not perfectly circular, that's not a problem, because it's just a pattern going in here. It's not meant to be geometrically perfect. If I wanted these perfect little circles, I'd either use a circle stencil, or I'd use something along the lines of compass, something like that. But I'm drawing it by hand, so I'm not going to get hung up on these not being perfect. In fact, sometimes when they're not perfect, it almost looks like these pair here are actually, this one is snuggled in behind, the one to the left is snuggled in behind the one to the right. And that's always an option to draw them in as well. But I just wanted to keep this simple with the first one, or relatively simple. I don't know if you noticed, but the lines I've drawn on this circle, oh look, there we go, there's the rest of that circle there, have different thicknesses. So the top one is thinner, the bottom one's thicker. I forgot that this would actually disappear in the blackness. I wanted the illusion that these were tucked almost under a ledge, and really to do that I should really have left or not drawn in the top part of it. Show you what I mean now, because I'll use this lovely pen I've got. I have many types of Fudenosuke pens. I remembered I had these the other day and I thought, oh, I need to dig some of those out and use them. And so I have. So what I could have done was, if this is the underneath bit, this band across the middle channel, if I'd tucked the top bits in, it looks like they're underneath, tucked underneath or in shadow, and that kind of works. Okie dokes. The other thing I'm going to do, now we've got a chain of circles there, is I'm just going to add in some little smiles at the bottom of them. No eyes, just smiles. So that gives the impression that there might be a little shadow down there. So that's the first one. Okay, this one, I'm going to use circles again to fill this channel in the middle, but I'm going to start somewhere in the middle again. But this time I'm going to have them tucked under each other. Tucked. The new ones I'm drawing are going to be tucked behind the ones that are already there. So you don't get a full circle drawn in. It's like we've taken a bite out of it. So by starting not here to draw the circle, a bit close, you know, a bit further up than the bottom of this previous circle, we have it sort of hiding underneath. You just pop them in and fill those. I'm filling those gaps in this time as I go along, like so. And that little bit at the bottom, you could squeeze a little one in, but I'm not. I'm going to fill it with black. And then do the same the other way, and these tuck under as well. And what this does is the circle that's the whole one appears above all the others, because you can see that all of it. Your brain tells you, oh, this one's tucked behind it. It's not really, it's because it's flat, but it looks that way. It's that illusion of it. And I'm just going to do the same thing until I get to the end here. So I've now got that channel there filled with these. And again, I'm going to put something to the bottom left. It's a little bit different to the other one. Instead of putting, well, these are at the bottom, I suppose, because they're related to these stripes. But these, I'm just putting them towards the bottom left. It doesn't matter where you put them as long as you do it consistently. And that then also suggests some roundness. And I'm going to just add a smaller one, smaller version, just closer to that, just to add that extra bit of darkness as a variation. Anything difficult so far? Maybe a bit of practice in drawing these, but don't worry if they're not perfect, because nobody will really notice. Okay, I've got this one here, and I'm going to work my way around. I don't know if I'll get them all done in this video, mind you. Might leave the rest for another one. I'm just going to draw a smaller version of that shape inside it. So in Zentangle terms, I'm auraing this shape. Oh, and in Zentangle terms, this pattern's called perk. So that's simple, isn't it? I've already put these lines in, so it looks like I've got an edge here that goes underneath these bits and a border here, but I want to put another bit of a border in. As far as I'm concerned, you can't have enough of these. And then this clearly defines this space here. And I'm just going to draw some lines in to separate this up into little boxes. And that instantly adds some interest to it. But I can also do some things that will help with giving this some volume. So my rule for me is always to thicken lines to the left and bottom, left and bottom, left and bottom. And the same with the outside ring, but not this one, because I want this ring to feel that it's these squares are below this outside ring. So I would need to work opposite, so it's towards the top and the right where I'm going to thicken that line. This will also clue me into as to how I add colour as well, where I want to make things darker and lighter. Now this would begin to get thicker there. So this next one would be in the opposite way, so it will be to the left and right, and then this one will be to the top and the bottom. I've been a bit heavy-handed over there, but it starts to add that feeling of volume. Other things I can do are, I could put something in the middle of these. I could put a circle, I could fill them with pattern, but for now I'm going to leave them as they are, because I've got a couple more that are a bit like this. I've got this one here, and this one again I'm going to do, let me get the other pen, this shape. Rather than starting on the edge, I'm going to pop this in where I can. Obviously these ones I can't, because the edge of this shape is hidden underneath. So I'm just auraing these, but I can also aura the bottom edge, so we've got a space. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to carry this line on in between these areas, so it's almost like they're little windows looking through. Doesn't work until you've put that space in between. And then what I'm going to do, you also need to check to see whether we need to pop these in at the top and bottom, which we do. This one isn't quite long enough, but it's fine. And then I am going to fill this with a Zentangle pattern called Zip. And Zip is just straight lines, but they're organised in a certain way. So I'm going to start here, I'm going to draw a line from the outside, but I'm going to stop short of that in a line here. The next line, I'm going to start at that inner line and I'm going to draw it towards the outside but stop. So I'm alternating these lines from the outside in, stop with a gap there, inside out, stop with a gap there, and try and keep the gap roughly the same kind of distance. This is a bit awkward to draw because we're going around in a curve, but at the end of it all, nobody's really going to notice too much if you don't quite get the way these curve around. Another way of making sure that you kind of get these in the right kind of orientation is just to draw some lines in which go through the center straight through, and give yourself a guide for them so you know how to change the angle that you draw the lines at. So I'd have one here that would go that way, so my next one is going to go here, here, here. That one almost touched the bottom, but it's fine. Again, when you come to looking at the whole of this pattern, nobody's really going to notice very much, honestly, because it is just a texture. It's to suggest that there's something going on here that perhaps it is awkward to do this in a circular form. but practice it on between two parallel lines, straight lines, and until you work out how it actually works. There is a rhythm to it, and once you get into that rhythm, it's quite meditative. And it doesn't take that long. And it looks really effective. It almost looks like the iris of an eye. Almost. But not quite. Certainly adds interest to that. Now, if that's not easy to do, just draw the lines full. And I'll do an example of that, perhaps on this one. So I'll draw a ring in there. I'll order it. And then we'll just pop lines in that are close together. It's your choice, it's your work. If you don't want to do zip, if you think it's too confusing, don't, just do straight lines. As said, we're adding lines and patterns just for interest here, and to bring out various features or highlight and shadow to work with. Here, I think this one, I'm going to pop some of these in, but I've made this wedge narrower at the bottom and the top than the original one, so it's a bit of a different shape. And I am going to go back and use a pen, and I am going to thicken the lines to the left and bottom of these, just to lift it up above everything else. And here I do have this ring here, so what I'm going to do with that, get my lid on properly before it flies off somewhere, is I'm going to fill this with these arches pointing inwards to the centre of that circular motif. And then I'm going to go, once I've done this, I find this easier to draw in a couple of sections where I just continuously move my pen, but by all means you can stop after each one and draw the next one in. I haven't left any space between them, but you could equally leave space between them as well. And I will start to fill these little gaps in here with some black. And by adding black underneath them, here, or this ring of black, it's got the feeling of disappearing underneath these little shapes, and so it lifts them above perhaps this central motif a bit, or perhaps they're both the central motif and these little petally things, little archy things on the outside are part of it. I suppose the pattern shape is a bit like the Zentangle pattern crescent moon, a bit. But I'm just going to put some straight lines roughly in the centre of these shapes. I'm not joining them to the top of the shape, but going up just a little bit above halfway up. Again, just to add that little bit of interest. So if we compare, say, this one with this one here, or this one with this one, they look really complicated, and yet all I've done is used little sort of like almost semicircles and straight lines in all of them, and here circles. It's this idea of what can I do to make something that little bit more complex, or that little bit more intricate. And also my drawing here this morning is not all that neat, because it's a sketchbook page, and again it's getting ideas down, it's trying things out. I'm not entirely sure about these myself. I think they might shine when I add colour, but for now I'm really not happy. But I know that there are other things we can do. We can add shadow and highlights, or colour and shadow and highlight and all of these different kinds of things. But it's trying out different textures, how we fill these spaces in and make this quite interesting, or more interesting than it was. Okie dokes. Let's go on to this one here, because this has got possibilities, and I'm not sure which possibilities I'm going to do here. Part of me wants to put some of these arches underneath, you know, this kind of pattern under here, but I think I'll go a bit, perhaps I'll keep that on one side and on the other I'll do something a bit different. So here I'm going to draw a series of shapes like this. So I'm following this curve. I'm creating these aura lines. Okay. I'm going to fill this middle one in black, but can you see I've left one here deliberately wider? I could have put another line in there, but it's like I skipped a line because I want a space to add something of interest. And for this one, I think I'm going to put in these circles in a perk manner. There is just something so lovely about this pattern. It instantly adds that feeling of volume. This isn't just flat, that there's stuff going on here. But there's just something so lovely about having a string of beads or pearls or seeds in a channel there that just adds so much interest. And yet it's just circles. And on the other side, perhaps I will just do the same kind of idea here as on the other one, where I leave a wider channel. And I'm kind of mindful that I want this and here to be about the same, and this to be about the same. That little channel is a bit wider on the side I'm working on, so I've just thickened this line outwards a bit, like so. So instead of circles here, let's use some lines again. And for this one, I'm going to start by putting a zigzag in, a series of triangles. So I'm drawing triangles going from the centre out, but they create triangular spaces on the other side of them. And then what I'm going to do with these, I'm going to take this line here and I'm going to aura it to fill that space up. Go along to the next section and we'll have lines moving in this direction as well. To this section, like this, and then the last section here. Now I've got some of my lines here are a bit wider, and I would have liked to have kept them the same. Now in the inside section, these inside ones, we're going to go this way. So I can't say 90 degrees, but the lines that fill these sections are in a different direction. We could use this line to fill in, but we just get lines all going in the same direction. So we use this line and there just a bit. So two possibilities in one picture. I am going to take this off my book a moment because the book is annoying me. It's getting in my way. I much prefer to work on flat paper, I have to say. As much as I love my sketchbooks and I do use them, when I'm at a desk I do like to be able to put my hand flat on the table and work that way. Okay. So it's a sketchbook page. It's just getting ideas down here as to what we could do. The other thing is to look at this inner section here. I quite like that as it is, but we could do something with that as well. And I think what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to aura the shape that's inside it, this kind of eye shape. And then I'm going to use that eye shape to add perhaps some pattern to. I'm not going to turn it into a window. I'm just going to add some pattern here. Because to draw a window into what's underneath here would be quite awkward. It's quite easy with these ones here. I'll tell you what I forgot to do here. I forgot to do the other side of these as being thicker. So it's to the top and to the right. That's better. There we go. So on the outside of these, I created a thicker line to the left and bottom, and on the inside to the right and the top. And what that does is it gives you that feeling. Those are they're quite chunky. In fact, I really do need to thicken. I didn't do that on this one, did I? No. But it just helps to make that bit of sense of it, to separate one section from another like that. And I think I might just go around the left and the bottom of that inner circle as if that is sticking up as well a bit. Perhaps turn this one a little bit thicker at the top and to the right. Playing around with line thickness and how it affects how things appear in your drawings is a lot of fun, and I have always tended to work towards the left and bottom for shadows of things that I want raised, and to the right and top of areas I want, raised, lowered. It's hard to explain because it depends on the context around everything. So I want this section raised, so I'll put shadow to the left and bottom on the outside of it, and if there's an inside space that needs helping to make this outer shape look like it's raised up, I need to put shadow at the top and right. So it's just playing with things until you work out for yourself how it works. I find it incredibly difficult to explain in words. It's far easier to show, because you can see how that's affected this. And I do want to, I do want to then go and thicken this, I think, section, as if that is lifted up as well from the outside bit. Perhaps just add some extra shadow there, because that would work quite nicely. That adds interest for sure. Okay, I'll do just one more today. Go down to this star one. I haven't done a very good job here of drawing this inner star. Should have started with a small star in the inside and drawn the bigger one round it, but I did it the other way round. Never a good idea. But what I'm going to do here to make this interesting is I'm simply going to draw auras of this shape. And I'm going to leave a space at the bottom. I'm not going to fill it all in. So how many lines did I draw? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to be consistent in that in all of the other ones. And one more makes 4. Even these areas here, like so. And something that is really relatively simple to do, and nobody's really going to check to see that you've exactly ordered it. It just gives that interest. And I like this space at the bottom because that gives us options of things to do there. So here I'm going to fill this one and the others with some of these perky perks. Starting at the top, and I'm not bothered whether it's a whole circle or part of a circle there. I just want that one to be the one that sticks out above the others, really. On that area there, I'll just colour in like so, and like so there. So that just adds some interest. Yeah. So that's the page so far. And you can, if you can remember what it was like at the beginning, I didn't think to take a scan or a photograph of it before I started, but I've got it on video, so I can always get a still image from there. And let's have a look. I've got some tea, which is vaguely cold here, but it's lovely. I've got some Tombow markers here, and I am going to add some colour. Start to add some colour to perhaps one of these. Now I'm paying attention to where the shadows are on this, and I'm putting most of the colour at the bottom here, like so. And because they're water soluble, I'm not worried about very neat, tidy colouring or anything, because I'm going to be adding water to spread that colour out. Just like so. That works nicely. There we are. So we've got golden shapes there. Now I'm particularly fond of using blue with yellow. They're complementary colours, so they tend to play well with each other. Oh, that's a mucky blue. They'll be all right though. Might be all right once I've added some water. Really should have used a brighter blue, but it's fine. It'll be all right. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Just going to use that the water just to spread this colour out so I get a lighter area. I'm not too worried about leaving any of the paper blank, because I know I can always add highlights with gel pens or similar, or ink, or even white chalk pastel. And I'm going to go back to that yellow to add some yellow at the top. It's looking a bit like a Christmas bauble. Okay. Do very well at getting all of the white covered up in that one, so I can just go back and tidy that up. So that's added even more highlight shadow to it. I could very quickly simply even add a bit more depth to the corners perhaps, or the bottoms of these, just by adding a little bit of a darker orange. And I'll use that pen again, or my brush, which I've just realised is a bit smelly, so I think it needs a really good wash with soapy water. This does happen. So I'll do that later, or after I finish this. So that just makes it that little bit darker there. Okay, this section here I'd quite like to do in alternating colours, so I'm going to put the colour closest to where the shadow's going to be. So that one will be blank, there'll be one, so I'm going to make this one green and then this one here. So using the back of my hand to check my brush is clean. So I'm just going to pick colour up from the edge and just move it out that little bit. You could do gradients of colour, so using one colour on one side of this and a different colour on the other, but I'm quite happy to use monochrome, sort of like gradients here, just to get that kind of colour going. And then in between, I'm going to pop a purpley colour, purpley pink. Like so. This isn't a complementary colour of the teal because you'd need an orangey green for that. It's the other side, it's a cooler red, purpley red. So you've actually got quite a cool feeling colour combination there. So next to those, let's have something that's a bit warmer. I'll use an orange here, I think. Shall I? No, I think I might put some more of this colour inside though. Bad choice of colour, Angela. I've told people you should never let me loose with colours, or, you know, I should really stick to a very limited palette. But I'll have a reference that will be in my sketchbook in the next couple of days, and I'll be able to go, yeah, don't do that ever again. Whatever you do, Angela, stop and think. Might be better if I use this yellowy colour here as a kind of border to that. That may actually help a little. Now I'm leaving quite a large area in between the darker bits of yellow on these sections. Like there's quite a strong highlight there. Possibly. That's all right. She's not so bad in the middle. It could have been worse, to be honest. Could have been. Okay, for this outside one, or this bit here, I'm going to add, this is where I'm going to get fancy schmancy. I'm going to add yellow to the outside bit. But to tie that orangey colour in, I'm going, in the centre, I'm going to tie that in by adding some little dots of it there. And I am going to make a gradient, so I'm going to start with the yellow and I'm going to move that into that orangey colour. Start with the yellow and then blend this in to get a gradient going. Just clean it off because that one had got quite intense. So start with the yellow and just blend that orangey colour. So that actually works quite nicely, I think. I think so. Now what do I do in the middle? In the middle of these, I could use the purple, I could use the green. I think I'll go with that green actually, possibly. And I'm going to make that the darkest on the outside because I want it to feel that the outside edge of this is lower than the tops of these perhaps. So let's have a look and see if we can help with that. So maybe not the best colour combination, but it's not really about colours, it's about where I'm putting shadow and highlight. I'm just using colours here to do that instead of graphite and so on. Very bright, very garish. Okay. What about these here? In these I am going to use a green. It's kind of a yellowy green. It's not a bright in your face yellowy green. It's quite a vintage mossy kind of green, I suppose. So we just dry my hand off, or clean my brush off from my hands. I really ought to learn to get some kitchen towel or a cloth out here that I can do it on, but hands get washed. It's not like I'm eating what goes on there. They're not toxic, so it's fine. So all will be fine and well. So there we are, some ones like this. And let me look for a nice browny colour, rather like a reddish brown. This one here may do. And well, perhaps not. It's not really very red, but I can change that, or I can correct that. I have a fair amount here and here. Like so. And then all I need really is to pop some red here, and I can mix the red over. And I can clean the red off by just going into the paper at the centre. I'll come back for those other bits in a moment. I'll just clean my brush off there so I don't have a shock when I come next to use this. Let's see how this works, because this is the nice thing about Tombows and the Zig clean brush pens. Yep, I know I've made a mess in that section, but I'll sort that out eventually. I think I'm going to have to leave this to dry for a bit longer before I can do anything about it though. And then just to get this more of a reddy brown, I can pull that brown a bit more down into that centre. I can do the same over here. Yeah, because I've gone outside the lines in one place, as it were. I'm going to not worry too much here because it'll be a consistent kind of thing. And perhaps I will just use a lighter version of this colour to fill these lines in now. And then once it's dry, I can use a different colour to change that. There's probably an orange, and it'll make an orangey red there. There we go, they're roughly similar on each side, not that it's important. That actually, red and brown, really works nicely together. It looks very garish on the screen. Let me have a look a moment. Is that any better? Most probably not. It's just the way the cameras work. Very bright, very vibrant, very nice. I like that very rich colour. Something for me to try to remember to use in future. I particularly like it with the green, because green and red they're complementary colours, so they tend to make each other a lot brighter. I could do with a darker green, perhaps in that one. So I'm just turning my brush system around here to find a darker version of that green. I bet you, oh, that one will do perhaps. So we just go back and just add some of this. These brushes, I think, have just about had it. I've had them for so long, I think they're drying out. So I shall research what I get next and let these go. I think there comes a point in time where you have to realise that. It just gets frustrating because every time I use a new colour, I find another one that just isn't working. And they're often my favourite ones, which shows me they're the ones that I use the most often. Quite intrigued with the Sakura koi brush pens, so I might have a look at those. I've still got some of the Kuretake Zig pens, but I'm not sure I'd get those. They're very vibrant, but I don't like the real brushes on the end. I prefer the brush, like the brushes that are like this, you know, the flexible brush ends, like Fudenosuke pens, rather than the brush, proper brush hairs. But we'll see. So I'm going to leave that here for today. Yes, there's a couple here I haven't added any colour to, but there's a start. Just to recap, you can quite happily add colour to these simple shapes and so on, but sometimes it's really nice to add pattern and then add colour, or add pattern on top of colour. I do like this one. It's very simple. There's very little ornamentation there and in these compared to the others. But I also think these will be of interest. So I'll have a look at these in the next video, which will be tomorrow. But Thursdays I'm finding very difficult to get both the colouring template for the Facebook group out and a video done. So I won't be doing videos on a Thursday. And on Sunday I've got so many things going on online, believe it or not, that I'm involved in, that it's really difficult to find the time that day. So Thursdays and Sundays there will not be a video, just to give me that breathing space. But hopefully the other 5 days of the week you will. But I'm sure there's plenty in my back catalogue of videos that you can look at. And it also gives you time to play around with things and come back and see what I'm up to next as well, with suggestions. So I hope you found this helpful. I hope you'll give some of these tricks a go. Remember, there's nothing really complicated here. It's mostly about repetition. It's about repeating a pattern or an idea. And by just simple repeats, you get that level of complexity into a drawing, into a motif, into a pattern. So take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, and find time to be creative. And I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye for now.